Hey everyone, Sir Jellybean here. We're back with another CallToArms Gates of Hell-Ostfront tutorial video, and this time we're talking Infantry Assault tactics. So obviously when you attack a position normally, you'd say, well, I'll set my tank up with me, I'll take the mortar, I'll take the artillery with me. But there'll be situations where either you won't have access to these, you might be very early in conquest, or simply, like which happens to me sometimes, you've lost your tank, someone lucky AT, or you've run out of ammo, or even run out of fuel. I've had that happen before in very long missions. So there might be a situation where you just simply have infantry and you need to attack a position. Now, this will only work if you're attacking infantry with a little support. If you're attacking enemy infantry and they've got armour, MGs, you're not going to be able to do it with just infantry. You'll take too many losses, you'll get bogged down, it won't be effective. In a situation where, for instance, there's 10 enemy Russians or Germans in a trench or a position, and you outnumber them at least 2 to 1. Now, preferably 3 to 1, but in this situation, we're talking worst case. We've also got no cover in this situation. We're going to imagine we have to move up over the worst scenario. We're not going to flank. We'll just imagine as well that there's enemy troops all here, and we need to take the point here. So how do you make it effective for your infantry? Well, in Gates of Hell, infantry can't move and shoot. I believe it's something to do with the AI. If you allow them to even shoot, they just constantly run forward and shoot, and it's either it's too overpowered, it just gets a bit crazy, like the AI just charges at you while shooting continuously. So the only way you shoot is if you're still. So that's kind of really buggers you up when you're on the assault, because the defender, especially in cover, has the advantage. They can just sit there and fire away, whilst you're moving over this is about 120 meters. You are vulnerable. So you need to do something like leapfrog technique. So that is basically as one squad moves, or even half of a squad, so you can get it down to 5 men, but we'll do it with squad, each one individual squad. So squad A on the left, squad B on the right. One squad does base of fire, so attacks, shoots, and the other squad moves. And then once the other squad moves forward, a leapfrog, it jumps down and the other squad moves. Now, in Gates of Hell, this does work, because even though the enemy doesn't have morale, they do have some kind of suppression. So when you start firing at troops, you won't really see it in editor, but in combat, in like conquest or campaign, troops you'll notice will start to take cover when fire starts coming in, especially lots of machine gun fire and rifle fire and stuff, small arms. So if you can keep a regular stream of fire up whilst another squad's moving, it will minimise your losses. So how the leapfrog works, we'll just do it here. So squad A here, we'll just get them in range of the enemy and put them in position. And first of all, you just either put them on correct thing, but I tend to put them on prone. So you have them there, and then you'd say, right, you start shooting. And as they're shooting and suppressing the target, you double click, you sprint the other squad. So as the other squad gets about 5 or 10 meters ahead, you got to imagine you'll be taking fire here. He's moving for some reason. You hit the deck and you start firing. Then all of a sudden, you absolutely bolt forward this other squad. If they actually come do the order, they're reloading, so they're going to stay still. Unfortunately, the hour's a bit thick. But when you get quite a bit forward, you will quickly hit the dirt, so in this case hit them, and you open fire again. And this squad, you bolt forward. Now, you've got to do a bit of micro, like these two guys are light. They've got the Geweers though, so they'll be shooting, running out of ammo quicker. And as they're suppressing the enemy, the other squad's moving, so you're getting some units killed and some enemies suppressed while you move forward. And then once again, you leapfrog and you shoot, and then you do the big run. And the idea is you'll constantly keep a stream of fire on the enemy. Obviously, it's edited, so you have to do it manually whilst you're moving forward. And then once you get close enough to the enemy position, the best option is grenades. Just grenades, as many as you've got, and just chuck them. And you might think, well, when I'm grenading, they'll shoot me. Well, the other squad, any troops that come out, they will have access to shoot them quite quickly. So the leapfrog is a fairly effective way for your troops to close that ground whilst shooting at the enemy. The only disadvantage of it, obviously, is it is quite micro-intensive, and your soldiers need a fair amount of stamina to do it effectively. So if they haven't got much stamina, the stamina will go down quite quick. Another option is to do kind of more of a static base of fire. So what you do for this is you split off things like your MGs. So just put these aside. When you split off your MGs, and like for instance in this case, everyone stand there, stop moving. You would find the guys who have, for instance, Geweers. So he's got a Geweer. He's got what other guns he got? He's got a Geweer. He's got a rifle, Geweer. We've got a lot of Geweers in this squad because I just picked them at random. But let's say you've got all these guys with Geweers, these guys with MGs, right? You would use them as your base of fire squad, and then your assault squad would be larger, so this team, and also you want to make sure that your SMGs are in with your assault squad. So that's a very large squad actually, too big. So you get one guy off there, so basically in this case, you would, so let's break these down to 2 small squads. You would set up your base of fire squad in cover if you've got some, or if there isn't, you would kind of crawl them up to where they can put some fire on the enemy position, and then your assault squads would basically just in my opinion, once you get, let's just get these guys moved up. So let's say they're in range, they start firing, and you just bolt them up as quick as you can. Now this is probably more of a way to get high casualties, but it's less micro-intensive. And the idea is, I don't know why these are moving, but let's say they're opening fire, because they've got MGs and semi-automatic weapons, they can pour a lot of firepower down whilst you're moving, kind of like having an MG really, like a light machine gun supporting you. And your troops get close, then once they're close, you do the typical frags, and you just frag the living crap out of the enemy position. Now, whilst you get close as well, some of your troops will stop and start shooting, so it can be quite effective. But you are going to take casualties. Obviously, this is editor, so you take less, or you take none, because the enemy aren't firing back. But the idea is you're using your numbers to your advantage, and you're using what weapons you can bring. That's why it's also important, especially to not only bring troops that have better quality veterans. So, like, let's say you're playing Germany, you might bring Gerbers or Fallschirmjägers to have more health, but also check out what the squad brings. So, for instance, the Gerbers, like I just mentioned, good stamina and health, but they bring a lot of bolt-action rifles. Whereas if you do take things like Blur Division or Brandenburgs, they bring more MGs, and they bring better quality MGs like MG42s and stuff. So sometimes having those better quality equipment, even though the soldiers aren't as skilled themselves, will be more useful on the assault, because quite frankly, LMGs and stuff really show the use when you're attacking a position. And then there is a final kind of method of moving up, which is similar to the leapfrog, which I'll show now. And it's the caterpillar, which is slower, but I'd probably say it's a bit safer kind of firepower wise. So I will just spawn a couple more Russians in, because we've killed quite a few. So just get a couple of KVD guys, chuck them there, just kick on them, we get them on. Where's the player thing? Oh, is it being no, we've got them there. Right. If we just, one second, let me just move these into the trench. Sorry about this, gotta do it. And whilst they're moving into the trench, we go on F2. Oh, it's just ignoring what I want to do now. Thanks. The editor's being a pain, as always. Is it going to work? No, well, just imagine they're on the enemy team. So in this case, with the caterpillar method, it's similar to the leapfrog, but not as aggressive. So you've got one squad there putting fire on, let's say, and they get a little bit close, and then you hit the deck, and then you just do a small jumps, so small leaps, and when they get level with them, or they should be level with them, you move forward again. So it's not as aggressive as the leapfrog, but you're kind of taking small jumps, small bursts of speed. But obviously with the AI being stupid, sometimes they don't go up as effective as they should. So when they're level with them, you hit deck again, and then you move up, and they would be automatically fine themselves. So the caterpillar's pretty decent for assaulting. I think it means your troops are more blocked, like kind of lumped together, so you kind of hit the trench with more thing. But realistically, you're not going to hit the trench as quick, because you're not taking those bigger leaps. So that's just the basics of assault, some basic formations to use, and obviously another thing to remember before you do the assault is, for instance, getting your soldiers. Let's say this was the assault squad, this was the defensive squad. If these have got grenades, go on their inventory. Let's see who's got grenades left. Has anyone got grenades left? Him. And you make sure that you click X and pass your grenades over. So, for instance, in this case, pass your grenades over to the other guy, well, him. So, make sure, for instance, like SMG troops and stuff that are going to be getting really close, make sure they have, frag grenades and bundle grenades and smoke grenades, obviously. In this case, we didn't have any smokes. Now, smokes can be used on the assault, but the only problem with smoke is it takes quite a while to deploy. And obviously, infantry smoke, you can only throw as far as you can throw a grenade, which is I'd say about 20 meters at best. So if you're throwing smokes 20 meters ahead, you have to really crawl forward while smoking. So it's far better to normally have that supported by mortars or tanks. But if you've got a mortar or a tank, you probably won't be using these tactics, because it's far easier to assault with when you have a tank. Even though you can use things like the leapfrog and the kind of the assault base of fire method with armor, but it's, like I say, it's micro intensive. So when you've just got infantry, you can do it, but if you've watched my Conquest Enhanced, when there's a lot going on, it's very difficult to pull something like this off. But it does work. You will take casualties, but the idea is aggressively moving forward whilst putting pressure on the enemy, because the longer you leave it as well, especially on Conquest, the more reinforcements that will come in. So those 10 men that were in the trench, if you leave it 5 minutes, another squad comes, then it's 20, then there's no way that tactic could work. So if you don't outnumber your enemy, or have very significantly better troops like Fallschirmjäger versus conscripts, you'll just get killed on the way to the trench. Anyway, I hope you found this useful, and obviously share your tactics with me as well, because other people have their own way of doing it. And yeah, like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a fantastic night.